What's up everyone, this is Trendkill Toys, and in this video I'm going to be going over my top figures of 2022. This is not going to be a traditional top 10 kind of video. I have a box of figures that I picked up from 2022, and I'm going to pull one out and give you my thoughts on it, and then at the end of the video I'll give kind of like a ranking of all the figures. It's more than 10, so it's not going to be a top 10, it's going to be a top whatever. I haven't even counted how many figures there are in this box. But before I get into the actual figures that I like, I want to speak briefly on the figures that really disappointed me last year in 2022. And I was really disappointed by these three figures. The first one here is the Ninja White Ranger. But this figure is super disappointing. The QC is pretty bad. The quality of plastic is pretty cheap, even for Hasbro standard. Also, my copy of the figure came with two right feet. I've replaced them. These are 3D printed feet from Black Ops Toys, and then I painted them white. So that kind of helped with the figure. But also, speaking of white, the figure has like different shades of white for each part of the plastic. It might not show up on camera very well, but in person it looks pretty horrible and ugly. And then what also happened on mine is the neck broke, so I just shoved tack in there. Like I just twisted it to swivel it, and then it broke. I guess it's not supposed to swivel. I don't know why they would put articulation there if it's not even usable. This figure just sucks. Also got the Cuphead from 1000 Toys. Like I've said in my review, I'm a big fan of Cuphead, but the quality of this figure is not the greatest. He fell once from my shelf, and he's got a bunch of scuffs on him now, and he wasn't even that high up on my shelf. He was like in the middle of the shelf, and then he fell. He got a bunch of scuffs on him. He's got this white line on his mouth. He's also got some of the paint coming off from under his stomach there. Also, his red underwear comes apart. That should not be happening. He's got another scuff on his leg right there, and I'm pretty sure that was from one fall from the shelf, so that's pretty disappointing. Also, the way the figure feels is just kind of cheap, so he does not make it on the actual list, but he's one of the figures that I was disappointed in. The last one is the Rin Shima from Yuru Camp, or Laid Back Camp anime from Figma. This is the DX version, the deluxe version. The accessories are good. That's the best part of this figure, the amount of accessories it comes with. But the worst part of the figure is the actual figure itself. So check this out. The figure falls apart just from shaking it, and that's the way they constructed it. So as you can see, the top part of the figure pegs into there. It's not a very tight connection, so when the figure falls from somewhere, like, it comes apart. Also, the bun, her hair bun, falls off too. And the reason I picked this up was because I had the other figure from this anime, which was the Nadeshiko Figma. I don't know why she's holding a camera, but so this figure is much better, way better range of motion and articulation. The way the figure's put together, it's not going to fall apart like this one. You know, having both of them is cool for pictures and stuff, and if you like the anime, you got to get both, which I wasn't a big fan of the anime. It was okay. I finished watching the first season, and after that I didn't really feel like watching the second or third season. Is there even a third season? I don't even know, but I know there's a second season. I didn't really feel like watching it because the initial like interest that I had in it. Look, and the figure just fell apart. I wasn't even doing anything, and whatever. Let's get into the actual list so I can talk about figures that I actually liked from 2022, from last year, which there was a lot more than I thought. And again, this is not going to be in an actual like top 10 order. I'm going to rank them at the end. So I'm just going to grab the first figure that comes out of here, and it's the 20th anniversary Iron Man Marvel Legends. I know you guys are probably tired of seeing Marvel Legends. Everyone's got Marvel Legends on their top 10 list. Marvel Legends has been very disappointing overall last year. A lot of reuse, a lot of laziness on Hasbro's part. Same goes for all the products that they release, honestly. The quality has been decreasing, the price has been increasing, and it doesn't even matter like what you want to blame for that. The fact of the matter is, these figures are not worth the price that they're going for. which is why most of the time I rarely buy brand new Marvel Legends. I always get them loose on eBay. You save money and you save space. You don't got to deal with the stupid boxes that they're putting these figures in. But of course I had to pick up this figure, one of my favorite Iron Man costumes with the horned helmet, designed by Steve Ditko, I believe. So that's just a bonus. You know, Steve Ditko's one of the best one of the best contributors to the comic world. So I had to pick that up. And then also, I'll put this up there too. This is the animated series Iron Man. This one, I had to pick this up also because the design is from, obviously, the 90s cartoon. And I didn't watch the 90s cartoon as it was coming out. I caught reruns of it on TV. So, and I was little, and so it kind of stuck with me, and I watched that cartoon. It's not the greatest cartoon. It's not even one of the better cartoons, kids cartoons from that era. There are a lot better cartoons. The design stuck with me, and I liked that cartoon. I still kind of like it. I think it's a great design for Iron Man. So these two are some of my favorite Marvel Legends figures that came out in 2022. Coming out of the box here is the McFarlane Dark Knight Returns Superman, and the Batman is right next to him. So I've obviously done some modifications to these, which does bump up, you know, their rating or how much I like them. I like them more now. This is the old Mattel Dark Knight Returns head on the new McFarlane body. Also a fabric cape from GPS Law on eBay that makes the figure a lot better. Also, this is a custom painted head. I painted it. It's from Action Figure Customs on eBay. He's got some crap on him. Also cloth cape. And the cape also has some crap on it. I'm not sure where I got that from. That's a lot, dude. I don't know what the heck he's been doing. He fell in like mud or something. I think this head sculpt makes it a lot better. The capes make it a lot better. And I just think the McFarlane did a good job on the sculpting. But, you know, I like the comic. Had to pick with the figures. The figures are decent. Not the greatest. Could be better. But for the price, 24 bucks a pop, I think that's pretty good. And I guess also related to that would be this. This is a Mattel Brock Lesnar Elite body. It was that farmer look that he had. And this is the original McFarlane head sculpt that came with that Superman figure over there. And this is like a custom Farmer Clark. So I just thought that was pretty cool. Next in the box, another McFarlane. The McFarlane Doom guy. I'm a big fan of Doom, the franchise, especially the original Doom game that came out in the early 90s. So I had to pick this up. Always a fan of this, the original design here. Not a big fan of the Doom Slayer, but there's some, you know, shared parts of the Doom Slayer figure, which is this part right here, and then the rocket that attaches to his back. That was really disappointing having to, you know, that they're mixing both. They shouldn't mix both designs. They should keep one design. But you know, they're being lazy and they reused some parts from the Doom Slayer figure, which does bring this down a couple notches in my opinion. I think this could have been a lot better. I'm still waiting for another company to tackle this figure design. Our next figure is the Marvel Legends Daredevil. Now this is from the Man Without Fear 3-pack. This is the best Daredevil in my opinion ever. The only problem, of course, is, you know, one of the things that other people have been talking about, which is the size of the shoulders. They should be bigger. His head looks a little bit too big because his frame is not as wide as it should be. In the comics, he was like a pretty built, muscular dude. He was wider than Spider-Man, although sometimes Spider-Man was drawn as, you know, pretty wide and bulky, but I think Daredevil was most often the bulkier of the two. So, but besides that, you know, the sculpt is good. The paint, not a whole lot of paint. Again, it's just sculpted in that red, which is good. Doesn't leave any room for mistakes that Hasbro often does when they're painting figures. They suck at painting figures, so I prefer them not to paint, or to paint as little as possible, to do costumes where they don't have to put that much effort, because when they put effort, they do a good job. Most of the time, they suck and they're lazy, and they just repaint figures, which is super disappointing. Which, this is pretty much a repaint of one of the Spider-Man that they've released, but I think it's executed pretty well. Overall, good figure, decent set of hands and accessories. I don't like the wire thing that he came with though, but still, I think an excellent figure from Hasbro, which is rare these days. And you know, the fact that it was a part of a 3-pack is really disappointing. The other figures in that 3-pack weren't that bad, but if you want to see my full thoughts on that, go check out the review on the channel. And I guess also another figure that was a part of that 3-pack was the white Electra, or the redeemed Electra, whatever you want to call it. This figure is good, but what my main problem is that this is just a lazy repaint. There's a couple of added parts like the skirt here, and it has a different chest piece, but really it's the same body that they've been giving us, which I do like. I do like the new female body with the double jointed elbows, and I don't like how they kind of slimmed down the figure. Like, there's not a whole lot of muscles on the legs or the arms, so it's not like a superhero type of sculpt, but I think it's still decent enough. And you know, with the repaints and the re-releases and everything like that, they've really used this body a lot, and they're going to continue to use it. So here's the original figure that had that body. This is the Shriek body, so I picked that one. It has different hands on it. And here's the Walgreens exclusive Moonstone. This one has a better sculpt on it, in my opinion. It's got the muscular arms and the muscular legs, and decent painted face, so that's cool. Again, pretty much the same body. They also had the Tigra. Something's wrong with her neck, but again, same kind of formula, same body, some sculpted parts on it like the bikini and, you know, some of the fur texture. The Siren, you know, pretty much the same thing, just different colors. And here's another Moonstone with a head swap on it. And here's the female Shield Agent body. Again, the same thing, just different paint, different accessories thrown on it. This is my custom Jill, Resident Evil Jill head sculpt that I painted. But I think the best figure that uses this body is definitely the Silk. This is from the Doc Ock and Silk 2-pack. I think this is the best figure that uses this body so far, but this one's pretty close. Just has a couple things that I wish they didn't do. For example, the whites don't really match on the figure. Again, the camera's probably not going to pick it up. And another thing is how they sat the bandana on the head. I had to cut a little bit out there and then push it down further and glue it to fix it, but it's still too wide. It makes the top of her head look kind of weird. And also the neck broke on mine, so again, you just use tack to kind of fix that. So that's a problem. The necks on some of these figures are not as strong as they should be, or as strong as they could be. And here's another one with the same body. This is the I forgot what this figure is called, but it's one of the female symbiotes. And again, the neck here is kind of tearing. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, but there is some tearing there. And again, this head sculpt fits really tight on this body, so if you put it on and then you try to swivel, it'll pull the entire neck joint to the side. So really unfortunate. I wish that wouldn't happen. And also can't forget Spinneret, same body, different paint. Firestar, same body, different paint. I picked this one up because the 70s cartoon, which I did catch reruns of when I was younger, and that was the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So that's pretty cool. I had to pick this one up. I didn't like the 3-pack that they had, the Amazing Friends 3-pack, because they had Iceman, and he looked like a heroin addict. He was super skinny. He had the sunken cheeks, and I just thought that figure looked really bad. So pretty much these are all the same figure. That's why I kind of included them in the same spot. But I think the best figure to represent them would be the Silk figure. Next one is the PW Toys Ada Wong. She does not stand at all. That's why I have this stand here, and this is one of the stands that came with the Lim Toys Leon. So again, this is a really good figure, no complaints. The articulation is not the greatest, but the cloth work on the figure is really good. In my opinion, the head sculpt is accurate to the game. Her appearance in Resident Evil 6, so that's cool. Extra guns are cool, extra hands are okay. I think she only comes with 2 other hands. And the different texturing all over the figure. The boots are different, the pants are different, the gloves, they could have done that a little bit better, I think. It looks kind of puffy and not very accurate. Something just fell on my shelf. I'm not even going to look at it right now. But yeah, it's a pretty good figure. And speaking of 1/12 cloth action figures, also got the Felix Toys Rorschach. This is a very good figure, very good execution, and A lot of good paint detail on the boots, the gloves, the mask. I really hate this, but I did lose the hat, the fedora. It's really unfortunate because it doesn't look like Rorschach without his signature fedora. So I'm still looking for that, hoping maybe I'll have to get a replacement or something, but that's really unfortunate that I lost that. I lost a lot of stuff, honestly, which sucks. I don't know why I keep losing stuff, but another unfortunate thing is the copper wire here has become exposed. That was holding the wire. I don't even know if it's copper, it's just the same color, so I'm just calling it copper. But it did come unglued from the belt to his trench coat, so that's unfortunate, and it really sticks out in pictures and stuff. That's why I have it tucked behind him here, and it even shows up there because it came unglued there. Super unfortunate and annoying to deal with, but I think the look of the figure makes up for any imperfections that the figure has, and the figure does move really well, so that's an added bonus. I think Felix Toys does a good job of the plastic bodies underneath all the clothes, but they also do a good job on the clothes as well. G.I. Joe Destro, this is the retro one, which came out this year. The original one came out a couple years prior, but this one came out in 2022. Had to put this up there again. 80s cartoons. There, you'll see a theme here in a second, but 80s cartoons I think are pretty good, and they don't get as much credit as they should. You know, there's always people that talk about how the old things were better. This is one of those cases where the older cartoons are better. The 80s G.I. Joe cartoon is pretty good in my opinion, especially for kids cartoons, and I think it beats all the kids cartoons coming out now, or cartoons that are aimed at younger people. Definitely give it a watch if you haven't. So this figure is pretty cool. I like the shininess on the head, and the gloves uses the same kind of silver paint. And yeah, it's just retro Destro. Okay, we got another Marvel Legends. This time it's the Walgreens exclusive Jigsaw. This was surprising. Didn't know they were going to make a figure of this villain from the Punisher series, so that's cool. There was no Punisher figures this year, but there was Punisher villain, so that's awesome. This figure, I would not place this high on my list because it's just kind of generic. The white suited body, which is not very good. They need to retire this body and sculpt a new suited body, one with less wrinkles in my opinion and better articulation. Pins or pinless, I don't even care. People like to debate that. Honestly, just make a good figure, whether it has pins or pinless arms and legs, doesn't really matter. Just give it a good sculpt, give it a good paint, give it a good head sculpt, which this figure does have a really good one. So I'm glad how that came out, and that's really the best part about this figure. You know, the body is kind of plain and boring. It could have been a lot better, but the head sculpt was executed very well, and that's the only reason why this figure is on my list. The Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. People have already said enough praises about this figure, but I think the sculpt is really good. You can tell the way they sculpted the shoulders. It should be raised a little bit higher, but I think I see what they were trying to do. They're trying to make his frame a little bit more broader than the kind of body that they normally give Spider-Man, but this was really good. Release, good articulation. This is my favorite Spider-Man sculpt. I'm not a big fan of the blue and red when it comes to Spider-Man. I like either a really dark blue or this kind of black, charcoal black color with the red. The fat spider logo, it is accurate to the era that this Spider-Man is based off, but I'm not a huge fan of the fat spider logo, and it's on both sides. It looks more like a ladybug or a beetle or something, but rest of the figure is really good. Articulation is awesome, and the figure just looks really good on the shelf, and you can put it in a lot of good poses, so that's why it's on the list. Also, can't forget about Masterverse, a new company on the scene in 2022. I think they actually started in 2021, but this figure came out in 2022. Masterverse, I'm a big fan of them and the kind of stuff they've been putting out with all the guns and the figures. The antenna to this radio thing broke, and it detached from the vest, so I had to tack it. Anytime anything breaks, you just got to put some tack and put it back on there. But the sculpt of the figure is really good. It's based off the Desert Rat, quote unquote, otherwise known as Analog Toys on YouTube. Check out his channel. And yes, this is based off a real life person, and again, Analog Toys on YouTube. He's got a good channel. I recommend checking it out. You know, all the stuff that comes with the figure is really good. The sculpt and the design, good sculpt, good paint, But really where this figure shines is the articulation. Like, look how good you can get that to sit. And just the amount of, also the customizability that you can have with this is really good. And it looks very nice next to the G.I. Joe classified line. And of course you can swap parts from either line and make up your own guys like I have. So that's a lot of possibilities there. We got a new line that I got into, which is the He-Man Masterverse line from Mattel. And this is the, I believe it's the 80th anniversary He-Man, which is more based off that classic cartoon look. And again, the 80s cartoons are pretty cool, like especially the He-Man one, and again, like I mentioned before, the G.I. Joe one. But this one was pretty cool. I saw the figures come out and I didn't really think that much about them. Then I decided to check out the cartoon and I was like, this is actually a decent cartoon. And you know, I took a second look at the figures and I was like, man, that would be pretty cool if I had some of those. So I had to pick up He-Man. I lost his sword. I don't know where that is. I think eventually I'll come across it though. I just haven't looked that hard for it. But I mean, it looks pretty cool with his shield and his axe. Not a whole lot of paint on there. And again, that's to kind of replicate the vintage retro style of toys. The head sculpt is also pretty good. It's very accurate to the original cartoon and the original figures. So that's cool. And some of the other figures I picked up from the line. She-Ra, and she had her own cartoon in '85. The original He-Man cartoon was '83, I believe, and the She-Ra one was '85. And She-Ra, again, another cool cartoon and another cool design, and another good figure from that design. So that's awesome. And of course, they're brother and sister, so you got to pick up both. And you can't have good guys without some of the villains. So here's Catra, also released in 2022. This is a villain from She-Ra, and a cool gimmick is that you can slide the mask up to reveal her face, which is decently done. It doesn't look exactly 100% like the cartoon, but I think it's good enough. And she also has her shield, which has the plastic gem in it, which is pretty cool. Staff, cloth cape, and again, the designs in the costumes I think are cool. So it's good that they did a good job of representing them in figure form. I also got Frosta. You got to get them too. And the face could be better, but I mean, it's okay. I've been thinking about repainting it, or maybe getting a custom head sculpt, because I don't think it's doing the figure justice in my opinion, and it's not doing the original character from the cartoon justice either. So I might do something there. But again, if you're getting He-Man, you got to get Frosta so she can hit on him, and so He-Man can reject her like he did in the cartoon, which led to some funny scenes, honestly. This is from this is Evil Lyn from the new cartoon, the Netflix one, which I don't like. I don't care for that. And as soon as they release a vintage original design of Evil Lyn from the 80s cartoon, I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to drop this in the trash as soon as possible. I just got it, honestly, I don't even know why I got it. Well, I guess I just got it because it's Evil Lyn, the same character, different design, but as soon as they drop the original, I'm getting the original. This is also another design from the new Netflix cartoon, and I just thought this design was pretty cool. You know, it's good for head swaps and some other customs and stuff like that. It's got a cloth cape and that blue fur. I thought was pretty cool. And again, but what's really disappointing is that the costume was just painted on. It's not sculpted. I would have liked it much better if it was sculpted on instead of painted on. It looks pretty lazy in my opinion, but still a good figure nonetheless. Also got the Teela. Again, this is from the new cartoon, Netflix cartoon, which I think sucks, but I did repaint the head sculpt, which makes it look more like the original 80s cartoon, which is, I mean, it's okay. The sculpt is definitely not like the original cartoon, and again, the costume is more like the new cartoon. And as soon as they release a new figure of the original costume, original design, I'm dropping this one in the trash and I'm picking up the new one. And then of course you got to have the two main bad guys from He-Man. Of course, Skeletor. This is the Barbarian Skeletor with the alternate head sculpt put on there. I painted the eyes black. Originally they were red. I tried to make it look more like the vintage cartoon. And then also I painted this. I thought it looks pretty cool. I like how that turned out. So, and this figure is pretty good, honestly. If I was to put one of these on the list, it would be the He-Man or the Skeletor, because I think it just looks really cool. It poses really well. Like any pose you put it in, it's going to look cool and menacing, and it looks cool on the shelf. And of course, having them all together is the best. And then lastly, from the Masterverse line, I also have the Hordak, which is the main villain from She-Ra. So had to pick them up. It's like one of those things, like if you get one, you gotta get this one, then if you get that one, you gotta get this one, and if you get that one, you gotta get the other one, and that one, and this one. So it was just a slippery slope that I was falling down. But I'm pretty surprised at how good these figures are. One of the things I did with this one is I repainted the head sculpt. I didn't like how the original head was like a kind of like a pearly white, and it was kind of shiny. And in the cartoon, it was just plain white with red eyes, and everything was plain. It wasn't like nothing fancy about the head that they try to do in the new figure. So I painted it white. I think it came out really good, and I like this figure a whole lot more now, and I think it just looks a lot better. And I got figures falling out, and this list is not going to be like solid, like set in stone. I could definitely change it depending on the day. Eight, 3. I'll put this one at 4. So 3, 4. I'll put this one at 2. This is going to be 4. I'm going to put these two together at 4. They're going to be holding hands. Number 6. Put Superman in there. No, actually, you know what? 2, 3, 4. Put the Rorschach at 5. I'm gonna put this at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. That's including that one. 3, 2. I totally forgot about number 1. Okay, why don't we do it like this? Let's try. Man, I don't really want to put this figure at 1. I don't think it's 1. You know what? Okay, this is risky. I'm going to do this though. 1, 2, 3, 4, Superman 6, Silk 7, Doom Guy 8. Oh, I totally forgot about this one. Let's do Ada Wong 9, and then Jigsaw 10. Alright, there you go, guys. There's my top 10. Man, I gotta get out of here. I've been talking straight for like 30 minutes. Alright, guys. See you in the next video. Let me know what you guys think about this list. I gotta go, man. I'm lightheaded.